All right, well today my title is called The Love of a Woman. And Warren kind of went, what? When I told him what the title was going to be. But I thought today that we might look at love from the perspective of the feminine side of humanity, from the woman's side. And I think we can all agree that there have been women in our lives who share or who have shared love with us, and it's a different way of sharing love than it is from a man or from the male perspective. And for most of us it began with our mothers, I think. And I want to say right now, I'm sorry for anyone that did not have a loving relationship with their mother when they were born, or maybe throughout their life. Maybe they didn't get that strong sense of love from her. Because I know it had to be difficult to be raised in that kind of situation, and I've experienced children who weren't really nurtured by their mothers, and I know how difficult it is for them to build and feel, grow a relationship. And yet, there's a special connection that happens, I believe, when a woman becomes a mother. And most of us can't explain what that connection is, except for to label it love. And what happens is, I think that even the ones that weren't nurtured, I think what happens is that special love that comes forth from someone being a mother is also that miraculous thing that we feel and share. And no matter who gave you birth, and maybe you never even met that person after they gave you birth, I can't help but think that that person who gave birth to you felt love. And that's a miraculous thing. And that's the kind of love we're going to begin with today when we talk about the love of a woman. But first we're going to say our statements of truth together, please. I am a child of God. I am deserving of good in my life. I am accepting my good now. So we're touching on this aspect of mothers, and perhaps you didn't feel the love of your mother, or time has passed and tarnished that connection that you had with her. And that's okay, because I know none of us would be here today if it wasn't for that love of the woman who gave us birth. Does this sound like it's a little hot, Patty? Yeah. Okay. Now, staying with that same theme of the feminine aspect, I want to look at some of Myrtle Fillmore's, co-founder of Unity's, quotes. And so this is a powerful one. When the harshness of others seems to crush you, you can send forth love, the power that not only blesses you, but goes forth to redeem the adverse conditions in the outer. And I love this line. When petals of the fragrant rose are crushed by cruel hands, they send out their sweetness even more than before. Love is the fulfillment of the law. The law of God in your heart keeps you sweet always. And this is a truth. This is a capital T truth, because no matter what anyone has ever done in your life to you, they might have said it was in the name of love, and we've all had those experiences, they can't take away the sweetness of love. There's no way they can take away that sweetness of love. Because, see, love exists in spite of us. Love exists even in the midst of chaos. And love is a catalyst for everything and everyone. And either way that we look at this, we can hold on to that concept of love by looking at other relationships in our life that maybe were filled with that unconditional love. Maybe you didn't get unconditional love from your birth mother. Maybe you didn't get unconditional love from the person who raised you. But there are people in your lives that have given you that unconditional love. So I have a few questions that popped up for me on that idea of unconditional love, and here they are. Have you ever experienced the love of a woman? Have you ever felt the love of someone close to you, male or female, that was unconditional? And have you ever felt the warmth, the sincerity, the joy of this kind of love? And I think all of us probably can say yes to all of these questions, can't we? Yeah. And it felt great when we experienced that. Well, I just happened to watch TV the other day, and it was the Monday before Valentine's Day when we were snowed in, and Steve Harvey had 50 couples on his show that he grouped married. Now, I never watched daytime TV hardly ever, and I turned it on, and Steve Harvey was on there, and I've never really watched him either, but it was really a great show. And the couples were sharing, some of the couples were sharing their relationships and how they ended up being able to come to this program and everything. And it was really moving hearing everybody's different love story and everything, and the impact that brought them to this place. And I think that we all can sit back and think about the different loves in our lives, can't we? And the thing was, for me, when I was listening to these stories, I thought, well, I never really reflected on how much I might have impacted somebody else. We tell our stories, because I know that I, in the past, had shared stories about my first real love. Don't we all have a first love? We might not ever have seen him again since that first love. But I remember my first love, this guy I really thought, oh, this is really love. And then I remember my first real long-term boyfriend, who I dated him for 1.5 years in high school, and I thought, oh, we were going to be together forever. And then I remember the man I married the first time, too, and, that was a different story. And then, of course, the love of my life is not even in here right now. Yeah. And the one I'm married to now. And I have, these different love experiences with each person. And yet I can say that was love. In the time of my understanding of those situations, it was truly what I felt as love. And I think we have that, but and so what I thought about was, I sit there and think about how it affected me, but I never really thought about how it affected these guys in my life. I never really thought about what that relationship meant to them. Because, see, as a woman, I have my own perspective, my own thoughts, and my own feelings about it. Now, Steve Harvey, he gives this wonderful, because after I watched his show, he mentioned his book that was called Act Like a Lady, Think Like a Man. And so I looked it up online, and I found this great quote in there. Now Amazon will let you read half the book before you buy it. But here's the quote. "Nothing on this planet can compare with a woman's love. It is kind and compassionate, patient and nurturing, generous and sweet and unconditional, pure. That's a woman's love. It stands the test of time, logic, and all circumstance." Isn't that beautiful? I just thought it was great. And the thing was, reading that, that this man knows love. He understands that true, unconditional love. And it's obvious he truly appreciates the woman in his life that he truly loves. And how much love has he shared over the years to get to this point to be able to write those words? Now, my question about this is, I think we all have felt this before. We all can affirm this. And yet, can we say that for each other? Can we say this kind of love to each other? Can we share that kind of love with each other? You see, even though I titled this message, The Love of a Woman, it's not just about that. It's about reflecting on the feminine aspect of love and incorporating that into our lives. You see, love is a feminine quality. And metaphysically, it is linked with wisdom. And wisdom being the masculine, while love is the feminine. And this shows up in the Bible in several different ways. And the most prominent one is, of course, Mary and Joseph. Mary represented love and Joseph represented wisdom. And together, they gave birth to Jesus, the Christ. And so metaphysically, if we balance love with wisdom, we will be at that place of expressing the Christ within. So that's why it's important to think about, are we sharing love? Are we looking at love with these words? Are we willing to let that be expressed out into the universe? And I think what happens is that sometimes we just don't do that. But if we look at the idea that love is a moving force that puts other attributes into action, we can see how important it is to share love, to be in that place of love, to know love. Think about this. Think about a situation that you really did not want to do. We've all done it. Somebody asked us to do something, we really didn't want to do it. But yet we loved that person, so we ended up doing it anyway for them. Right? Yeah. Love allowed our ego to get out of the way, and it let us put love into action, and we became loving. And then the end result was probably a beautiful thing, because the person probably so appreciated you doing that for them that they expressed that to you. And we would have never had that experience had we stayed in ourselves and said, no, I don't want to do that. So, how many of us can say that we've shared this same kind of love, that kind and compassionate, that patient and nurturing, that generous and sweet and unconditional pure love? And I think we all can raise our hands on that one because you know why? I know all of you. Well, I just met you, but I'm sure you being here after Diane had spoken with you, that you are a loving person. I know all of you are loving persons, and I know that you share that. What I don't know, though, is are you willing to share that with a total stranger? Are you willing to go out there on the street and share that love with each and every person you meet? That's a whole different thing, isn't it? Well, in the Bible, in Romans 13:8, it says, owe no one anything except to love one another. For the one who loves another has fulfilled the law. You see, it can be difficult to feel that love in your heart and for everyone that we meet. But that's where we put the law into action. That's where we are moving forth from that Christ within. That's where we have balance, wisdom, and love and put it out there into the universe. And the thing is, what happens to us is we usually become judgmental and righteous in the wrong way and not very loving or kind. Because sometimes we look at a person's clothing, we look at if they have tattoos or if they have piercings or whatever the thing is that is our block, our wall from sharing that love. We become so judgmental that we automatically just go to that place of thinking less than. And why do we do this? Why can't we turn it around the other way? Why can't we automatically look at everybody with love, through the eyes of love, through that lovingness that we are? We can't. We really can't. So what prevents us from being the best that we can be and see only love? And you know, I pondered that question for quite a while when it popped up in my head, and the first thing I thought about was self-esteem. You see, I thought about how self-esteem controls our lives, controls how we feel about life. And the first question that came to mind was, why does someone set limitations for themselves? And the answer I came up with was the lack of self-esteem. You know, this person's got all that weight on them. I must be perfect. They're putting it on themselves. And they are perfect. I'm not, whatever that says, worthy. I can't do it. All of these things we put on ourselves, and what does it do? It just drops us lower and lower and lower. And less than, and less than, and less than. And that's not who we are. You see, if we tend to think highly of ourselves, we wouldn't be in this situation. And unfortunately, what happens to people when they are in this situation where they have piled on and they have this lack of self-esteem, they think that nothing can be theirs unless they steal it or fight for it or covet it from somebody else. They might even have it in their mind, oh, that person doesn't deserve the good. That person doesn't deserve to win a prize because look at them. You get in that mindset, and that is not where we want to come from. That's approaching life with the wrong attitude. That's approaching life without love. It's the wrong thinking because we live in an abundant universe. God provides everything that we need and provides it abundantly, and that means love is the same thing. And we don't have to covet or steal or lie or cheat or anything. And more from Romans 13 says this. The commandments, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not murder, you shall not steal, you shall not covet, and any other commandment are summed up in this word. Love your neighbor as yourself. Love does no wrong to a neighbor, therefore love is the fulfilling of the law. So what is low self-esteem? And the answer is a lack of love. A lack of love for yourself. And if self-esteem is based on love, how do we switch that love for ourselves? How do we switch what is standing in the way of loving ourselves? Now maybe it has to do with forgiveness. Are we not forgiving someone? Are we holding on to an energy that is hateful or hurtful or filled with anger? the next question to ask yourself is, who is it hurting when we do that? Who is it hurting? Ourselves, yeah. It hurts ourselves. It hurts us. It doesn't hurt the person that you're not forgiving. It hurts you. And as much as we try to forgive another, we must also forgive ourselves. Because when we are not forgiving to someone else and hurting ourselves, then what happens? We're not sharing the love. We must forgive ourselves for withholding love from another. When we're not forgiving, when we're not loving, we are withholding our love from somebody else, and it becomes our issue, no matter what it is. And in the Bible, Colossians 3, as God's chosen ones, holy and beloved, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, meekness, and patience. Bear with one another, and if anyone has a complaint against another, forgive each other. Just as the Lord has forgiven you, so you also must forgive. And it goes on to say, above all, clothe yourselves with love. I love that. Clothe yourselves with love, which binds everything together in perfect harmony, and let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, to which indeed you were called in the one body. You see, we are one, and the expression of that Christ rule in your hearts, is what we need to remember in order to think God's thoughts and in order to share those thoughts, which are always based in love. And so maybe a lot of you have worked through that concept of forgiveness, and maybe you automatically, when you start to feel hateful or hurtful or whatever, you automatically switch that and say, oh, I forgive. I want to send love. I don't want to be in that place of not forgiving. And maybe that is not the wall that is holding you back from sharing your love with everyone else. So what is it? What is it that we go to that prevents us from walking out on the street or going to the grocery store and feeling love for each and every person we encounter? Or driving down the street, seeing somebody walking down the street and not thinking less than, not being judgmental, but sending love. It goes back to the subject we've talked about. Love. Love for ourselves. So how do we nurture that love for ourselves? Well, again, to me, this is where we can erase low self-esteem by turning to the feminine aspect of ourselves. Because guys, you have that feminine aspect in you too. And turning on the love that we know has power to heal, power to nurture, power to strengthen, and power to encourage us to be the best that we can be. That's that feminine aspect of love. You know, our mothers were always there to cheer us on, or whoever that feminine person was in your life was there to cheer you on. And maybe it's your friend now that cheers you on. But believe me, it comes from that feminine aspect of love. And this concept of that is easier for us to turn on than you think. It's not a difficult thing. And I'm going to coach you through this in a simple process, okay? So I invite you right now, and I ask you to close your eyes for just a moment. And think about someone in your life that has given you unconditional love. Someone who has given you the kind of love that Steve Harvey wrote about. It was kind and compassionate. Let's think about that kind of love that you experienced, maybe at the birth of your child, or the love you have experienced with a partner or spouse, or maybe you feel that kind of love with your pet. Think about that kind of love, and just let it kind of boil up within you, that kind of love. And kind of focus in on that relationship and how special it was, and maybe even focus in on one condensed, small moment. And in that small moment, it was oozing with that kind of love that is beyond the physical, that kind of love that just wells up in your soul and your heart. And allow yourself to feel that from within. And when you feel it, allow it to just rise up into your consciousness. And as you do that, allow yourself to truly feel that love. For that love cannot be generated through you. through someone else's thoughts or feelings unless you have that love too. You may open your eyes. Feels good, doesn't it? So we could do this exercise throughout the day. We could do it daily. We could do it anytime we go to that place of judgment or unforgiveness. Because all we have to do is tap into that feeling of love for ourselves, and we do that through that Christ nature, through that balance of love and wisdom. That's where we find it. And Myrtle speaks these words of truth. God's life and power and love are in everything and seeking expression. The love that is within us is longing to express. It's just another aspect of God wanting to be out there in the universe expressing. And when we can feel this love, the lack of self-esteem dissipates, and we no longer feel less than the truth that we are. We no longer have to struggle in bad relationships or long for that perfect partner or desire something more for ourselves that we think we can't have, because we know that we are more than anything less than good. Anything less than God, too, yeah. Our love will be more than enough for us. It'll be more than enough for everyone, because what will happen is we will be living in that place of self-awareness. We will be turning on that place within us that is that pure love, that unconditional love that is. And when we do that, we are moving through life from this place that Myrtle speaks of. Make up your mind that you are going to see God everywhere, and you will begin to discern the God qualities expressing in everyone and everything, however imperfectly. The imperfections, you see, will no longer be in the forefront of our minds, because when we love someone, when we share that love, when we automatically go to that place of love, we don't see imperfections. We see each and every person as the perfect child of God. And we know that, and we can claim that, and we can hold that for them, even if they can't see it for themselves. Because, see, that's what we pray here in Unity. We pray as God sees. We pray knowing that whole and that complete and that perfectness that we are. And we have to claim that for ourselves in order to express that in our lives. I know that most of you know that I freely say to you, I love you. I think everybody here has probably experienced. If you haven't, I'm sorry I missed you. But the thing about it is that I do this from my heart. I don't do it as just, some lib to say. I say it from my heart. I truly mean that I love each and every person. And I've said this for a number of years to people. And I know that if we can feel that love in our hearts, that we can freely speak that love to each other. And when we speak that love to each other, what does that do? It opens up that oneness of consciousness, that oneness of God wanting to express. So I'm going to tell you right now, a good thing to practice for yourself is saying, I love myself. Let's say it together. I love myself. One more time. I love myself. And again. I love myself. I like doing it in threes. And most importantly, I love each and every one of you. So this day, let's go out and share all the love that we have. Thank you for being here today. God bless you.